This here is BMW M's formula for success. 6-cylinder, 460 horsepower turbocharged engine up front, manual gearbox here down in the middle, rear wheel drive only. This here is the M2.
Like it animal. Like it
Question is just how good is it to drive? Is it practical to use? But most importantly, should it be on that short list of yours, the one with the must-have cars? Under the hood is the same twin turbocharged S58 engine used on the M3 and M4. Detuned to 460 horsepower from around 500, peak torque is a strong 550 Nm. But it's only available after 2650 RPM. And since this is a manual, you do feel the slack as the turbo spins up. Now, like many BMW straight 6 turbocharged engines, the response when you accelerate from a low engine speed is nice and sharp. But there's no sudden step up in performance, and then power only really floods in past 3000. And what's really nice is you get the feeling of continuously building power as you rev it higher and higher. As with any BMW, the best part of the power band is the top end. Here, acceleration is super strong and it keeps pulling till its red line, which makes it feel naturally aspirated, and that's exactly what you want. The red line is a high 7,200 RPM and it's very entertaining to drive with this manual gearbox. And that's the thing with this combination of manual gearbox and this naturally aspirated feeling engine. It reminds you of some of the old M cars, and that's just amazing. What's nice about this gear lever is that the throw is short. You can flick shift with just your wrist, and it really does come into its own when you want to bang through a quick shift. Wow, that's fun. It isn't perfect though. The shift is a bit rubbery, and a bit more direct feel or metal on metal contact would have done it wonders. Still, all in all, for what you need it for, quick shifts, it's pretty good. What also needs a bit of work and some commitment is getting on top of the chassis. Now, based on the bigger and heavier and more grown-up M3 and M4, this new car weighs 1.7 tons. It's also been made much stiffer, it has a lower center of gravity, helped by that carbon fiber roof, and comes with an electronically controlled active M limited slip differential. What the M2 does best, of course, is attack corners. And here, the driving pleasure is just elevated to another degree. This, however, is a car you need to work at. It's not a car you get in and enjoy going quick straight away. You have to invest a bit of time in it. You have to understand the manner in which it tackles corners. You have to get down and get to using that gearbox judiciously. You have to get a feel of the brakes, and then as you drive it harder and longer, new layers start opening up. It gets better, gets faster, more fluid, and that's when you get to the real good stuff. It feels considerably stiffer and more taut than the earlier M2, and clearly communicates that it has loads and loads of grip in reserve. BMW has added some agility by shortening the wheel base compared to the M3, and that does help. With the settings in sport, the steering, the engine, the chassis, the M2 just attacks corners. And what makes it so entertaining is that it's a car that's always moving around at the back. You can feel the weight going through the rear wheels. You can feel the power flowing through, and it's always moving around a bit, squirming, just in a manner that entertains you but doesn't take away confidence. Wish the steering had a bit more feel, but what I do like is the sport setting for the brakes. You get a bit more bite. Now I have the brakes set in sport, and this gives them a lot more bite. They're much more responsive. They react to a tap much better. You don't need to go as hard on the brakes, and the pedal feel, rather than being soft, is a bit more precise and direct. Now another reason why this car is pretty practical is because ride isn't too uncomfortable. Now I'm going over a really badly rutted road, one that has a lot of patchwork as well, and yes, the M2 is moving around, but it isn't thudding, it isn't hard knocks, and there is a lot of cushioning happening, which does make this pretty comfortable to drive. And this is true on city streets, out on the highway, and pretty much anywhere. Yes, deeper potholes do reveal the stiffness in the springs, and in sport there's a bit more up and down movement. But for an M car to ride this well, wow! Even better, the new M2 clears most large speed breakers. It takes to speed breakers pretty well. There's no lift function here, but even with 3 people in the car, it was pretty comfortable over most speed breakers. It will touch the largest of them, and you have to be a bit careful and go a bit cross. Be a bit careful and you can go pretty much anywhere. What you may have to deal with on a coarse surface is a bit of road noise. But what's the manual like to use at low speed, and is the clutch comfortable? Now at slow speeds, you do need to be a bit deliberate on the clutch. It is a bit springy, especially in that middle bit, and you do need to get used to it, especially at slow speeds and when you're in traffic. It isn't the lightest clutch around either, and well, can you blame BMW? This engine makes 460 horsepower and 550 Nm of torque, and he has to control that. To take care of that, you do need a tough clutch. The new M2 is also much nicer on the inside. While the earlier M2 had a cabin that would just pass muster for quality and premium feel, this one is a thoroughly modern BMW. So an extremely sporty cabin on the inside. It's got a lot of carbon fiber trim. It's got these buttons, these shortcut buttons here. It's got carbon fiber here as well. But what it also has, and what looks really nice, are these 3 colors, the 2 blues and the red, that give it the BMW M character. There's a blush here, there's colors on the gear lever, there's stitching here with 3 colors, it's on the seats, it's practically everywhere, and it really looks attractive. Now the driving position is particularly good. You're sat low, and these seats, they sort of hug you and can be adjusted. They're powered seats, they can be adjusted, and they grip you in just the right amount. You can adjust them from down here, and you can also extend this thigh support, but this one here is manual. You also get a lot of shoulder support, and the driving position, apart from being sporty, is also helped by this head-up display that changes every time you set the mode. It's also pretty practical. There's a good amount of storage here, 2 cup holders, a nice big elbow box. The phone goes here if you want to charge it, wireless charging, and you have a USB-C here, a normal USB here, so it's pretty practical. But the big thing, the thing that really stands out on this center console is this manual gear lever. Now as far as buttons go, there's a nice volume control knob here, defrost knobs for front and rear, but unfortunately no climate knobs you can access quickly. You have to go into the climate menu and then adjust fan speed and temperature, which is sometimes a bit of a pain. Now BMW's curved display is really slick, it functions beautifully, and some of the graphics are really special. They're large, they're easy to see, they're easy to hit, and that makes using it a pleasure. Things like tire pressure, tire temperature, boost gauge, it tells you the amount of boost you're getting. And look at this one. Very Tesla-like, you can turn the car around, the indicators, brake lights, and other things work. You can also add widgets and customize it as you need to. Of course, it also gets wireless Apple CarPlay, and should you need to, there's even navigation that helps you. But the important part, the real core of this driver's car, is the driving menus or the M menus. Now the setup menu allows you to set up this car just like you want. You can do it for the engine, efficiency, sport, sport plus, the response gets better. The gear shift assistant helps you when you're downshifting, it blips the throttle, you can put that on or off. Then there's the chassis, damper settings, there's 3 of them. The steering, of course, for comfort or sport, and then 2 really exciting ones. There's one here for the brake, so comfort brakes or sport brakes, more bite, and you can adjust the traction control as well. Yes, that's a 10-stage traction control system that you can adjust and play with. The coolest feature, however, rates how good your drifts are. What you also get on this car is this M Drift Analyzer, and it gives you your drift duration, your angle, the distance. Well, if you only had a track here. Even space in the rear is good. Now there's a decent amount of room in the back and it's pretty practical. That's the space for my knees. I can put my feet under the seat. That's my seating position. Headroom, however, is a bit tight. You do, however, get this very practical rubberized tray to put your phone and other stuff. Now the boot is pretty large. That's 390 liters, but you don't get a spare tire. The front tire is 19 inches, the rear is 20, so there's only a puncture repair kit. With its wide body kit, box fenders and new look nose, the new M2 draws a lot of attention to itself. Based on new M3 and M4, it also has the go to match the show. The explosive power of the twin turbo 6 is top draw. The chassis has great poise and huge amounts of grip, and switch off the electronic nannies, and there's also plenty of sideways rear wheel drive action to be had. And then what adds to the driving experience is that it can be bought with a manual. It isn't as playful as the earlier, smaller, edgier M2, but there's also no denying performance and ability in general have taken a big leap forward. It even rides well, has usable back seats, a beautifully specified and built cabin, and even the boot is fairly large. It is likely to be expensive at an estimated price of Rs 1.27 crore, and that's a big jump over the earlier car. Still, think of it as a junior M3 rather than the new M2, and the big increase in price does sort of make sense. Whichever way you look at it, the entry price for a real M car just went up.